Lewis and Clark set out on an expedition to map out the Louisiana Purchase, and the president gave the 3 goals. The first one was to map out the Indian Territory. The second one was to make peace with the Native Americans and give the medal. The third one was to find a waterway to the Pacific and learn about the natural resources such as plants and animals.
Lewis and Clark's great journey begins in Washington, D.C. and zigzags along with the eastern seaboard surrounding Delaware, Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. They left Washington, D.C. on March 15 in 1803. Lewis traveled through the eastern towns, preparing himself for the western expedition. They traveled Louisville on October 14. Once Clark joined Lewis together, they would travel to Camp Du Bois. When traveling, they reached the Appalachian Mountains. On January 1st, they reached Fort Mandan in North Dakota, then traveled through the Rocky Mountains and Snake River before reaching the Pacific Ocean.
Lewis and Clark faced many poisonous and dangerous insects. They could have got yellow fever and Lyme disease. Lewis and Clark had caught malaria. They also had to deal with snake bites, insect bites, and poisonous ivy. They also dealt with lots of ticks.
Lewis and Clark spent the first winter with the Mandans. The Mandans comforted them. They gave them food such as corn, buffalo, and watermelon. Mandans helped them build canoes. For their trip, Lewis and Clark traded guide Sacagawea and her husband. On the way back from the Pacific Ocean, they stayed with the Mandan tribe.
When the U.S. bought the Louisiana from the French, it doubled the size of the U.S. The purpose of the trip was to learn about the geography, plants, animals, and the features of the region. Also, it was to make peace with the Native Americans. Last and the most important one was to find a waterway to the Pacific Ocean.
Lewis and Clark set forth east through the Mississippi River to explore the Louisiana Purchase. They went down the Missouri River where they reached the Rocky Mountains, and after they reached the Rocky Mountains, they kept going down the Missouri, and after the Missouri, they reached the Snake River, and from there, they went to the Cascade Mountains, and after that, after they passed the Cascade Mountains, they set fort near the ocean, and they finally found the Pacific Ocean.
Lewis and Clark were on their expedition, and while walking, they found the Teton Sioux. In order to go on, one of the Tetons' chiefs demanded a boat as a price of passage. The Tetons were known for aggressiveness and power, which was going to be a problem, because Lewis and Clark were supposed to be making friends with the Native Americans. Clark said no, and the Indians became threatened, and the expedition was about to be met force with force. But at the last moment, both sides pulled back, and Lewis and Clark left without any more problems.
Go.
Sacagawea was a part of the Teton Sioux. She helped gather and cook food. The Teton Sioux had put their calendars on trees. They had a special dance called the Ghost Dance. They were known as aggressive tribe. They did not want to let Lewis and Clark pass on the river. Teton Sioux asked for a boat for a safe passageway.
Oh my God.
3.
Thank you for the horses. Thanks, we need these to get across the mountain. So, they're starting to get across the mountain when they came to a divide where they realized they needed to stop and rest. They stayed a night there and realized that they needed to split up and go off this way, and that's where they made contact with the natives later on.
In 1805, Lewis and Clark needed to cross the Rocky Mountains, but they needed horses. They knew that the Shoshone Indians had them, so they went looking for them for Sacagawea's help. Sacagawea was a member of the Shoshones, but she had been kidnapped by another tribe long ago. She was the wife of Toussaint Charbonneau. When Lewis and Clark luckily met the Shoshone Indians helped them by lending Lewis and Clark their horses. They were the first white men the Shoshones had ever seen. Lewis and Clark named them Snake Indians. Their actual name meant the Valley People. The Shoshones lived near the Rocky Mountains and sometimes near rivers. They were few in numbers. Their total population of being somewhere was 8,000.
3.
Thank you for the horses. Thanks, we need these to get across the mountain. So, they're starting to get across the mountain when they came to a divide where they realized they needed to stop and rest. They stayed a night there and realized that they needed to split up and go off this way, and that's where they made contact with the natives later on.
Lewis and Clark asked Sacagawea to join them on their expedition to be their translate. She was pregnant at the time. Sacagawea had her baby on February 11, 1805. She named him John Baptiste Charbonneau. They started traveling up the mountains. Then they realized they needed horses. So Sacagawea talked her brother into giving them some horses. The horses helped them get through the mountains.
Set. Go.
After Lewis and Clark had completed their mission, completing all goals, they returned with great reports to the White House. They brought 140 hand-drawn maps, and these were the first accurate mappings of this area. Also, as a gift to Jefferson, Lewis and Clark brought the president a prairie dog, a creature that was completely unknown at this time to the east. In return for all the insight and intel on Louisiana, President Thomas Jefferson awarded Meriwether Lewis and William Clark with double pay as their own pieces, also as well as their own pieces of Louisiana land. Lewis and Clark's expedition gave people access to land as far as the Oregon Territory. This also gave people more and more resources for food, clothing, and housing.